Welcome back. Talk Sports WBCP 1580. Got rings.
Yep.
Got milk. UPTV Channel 6. The late, great, super one, Joseph Williams, on the camera. Behind the scenes, Jazz on the board. What are you doing? Are you making adjustments for us also?
I'm making adjustments.
Making adjustments. See, that's what I like about this show. On the fly.
Got you.
A lot of stuff on the fly.
On the fly. Flies down, flies in the air, on the fly. This is the flyest radio show in America.
Yes, it is.
So they tell us.
They might have, but somebody. It's a conspiracy theory. The families are running this.
Concussion effects.
Sergeant Rock, you all right? You know,
Yeah.
See you weekend. I know you're going to be super busy. Entertaining guests.
I've been busy all day. So.
Have you?
Yes, sir.
You
Yes,
know,
sir.
See you weekend.
Yeah.
Folks
Matter of
coming
fact,
to
it
town.
starts tonight.
Tonight? That's right.
6 o'clock.
Yeah, a little overcast outside, but I actually like that because, you know, there's been previous CU weekends where it was about 193.
Yeah, but I think this evening is going to be nice and cool.
Mm-hmm.
And I think everybody will really be able to enjoy themselves. I don't know the festivities that they have going on this evening though, but CU Day is always a great time. So.
If you're looking for a pre-CU Day happy hour, come on down to Soma's from 6 to 9. Dr. Will Patterson and the gang. Drinks and...
Put your money where your mouth is.
Put your money where your mouth is, exactly. So come on down and have a ice cold beverage and kick CU weekend off there. And
some adult libations.
Tiger White is doing a little, back in the day, what, a 90s party. Remember it used to be 70s parties? Now, and then 80s parties?
Now the youngsters got to do the 90s.
Do the 90s parties.
That's old school to them. The 90s.
Man, that was so long ago.
Yeah, I know it, man. So like last year.
Right, for some of us. So you can go on over to the Civic Center, $10 to get in there, but they've got games. They're doing games, music.
Yeah, what are they going to play? Scrabble.
Bingo.
I think more of what Mike is, bingo. I don't know if Scrabble would be
That's a lot of thinking.
Right,
My favorite, you sunk my battleship.
Say that 3 times fast.
No, I'm not going to even try.
And when you say it, I'm going to...
He had problems with the first time he said it.
The duck's ears went up when you said, did you say sunk?
Sunk.
Or the duck's favorite word?
I'll have to send him a picture.
Right.
Give him
all the way from Britain,
England.
Duck with a
smile on his face.
Yes.
But yeah, those would be the festivities for this evening, and obviously people coming into town, catching up with family and friends and stuff like that. And then obviously tomorrow, Saturday, big day.
Big day.
Get out to the park. Starts at what, 11?
11.
Little guys will be playing baseball. The little 4 to 6 year olds.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they'll be playing some baseball out there before the big guys get out there to play softball. So if you want to see the future of baseball and first string, get on out there and check that out. There'll be basketball going on. I remember last year when we sit up under the tent and we were supposed to be emceeing.
Oh yeah.
A music event.
But
y'all did a heck of a job.
Well, thank you.
I really liked when we didn't have to get up on stage and we were eating. That was probably the best part of the job.
They'll have those wrestlers out there.
Oh. They got a new one this year.
Did they?
Yeah. Ebola. He's a killer.
Well,
he cannot be stopped.
I'm too sure. Well, I hope they're better than they was last year.
Oh yeah.
They made...
It was interesting.
Backyard brawlers.
They made the WWE look...
real.
Exactly.
Bingo.
Exactly. But it was entertaining nevertheless.
The other thing is the schedule goes all the way to what? 8:30?
8:30. 8:30.
Nice. And then after that, Saturday night, put on your gear,
head out to the
Holiday
Inn Hotel and Conference Center.
Mm-hmm. Willie Brownlee
Productions.
does his party every year, so you can go out there and see more people.
That's right. That's gonna be like an all-day thing.
Mm.
I'm too old to do all day.
That's why you got to pick and choose. You got to pick your battles.
You got to pick your battles. You got to pick your battles. Got to pick your time. Well, I can go out here and stay for a couple of hours.
Well, that's the other reason why, like I said about the tent. It's nice to sit under there, commiserate, have a beverage or something. Are you gonna have your PBC with you?
What's that?
Personal beverage carrier. Everybody's got their own PBC. Mike might have a big jug that everyone assumes is water.
Mm-hmm.
You might have yours strapped over your shoulder, carrying around
Yeah, I got it.
enough to carry 4.
I
He
got
got
it.
Camel back on.
Oh, does he?
Yeah.
So you just pop it in and
Water.
I got it.
keep moving up. Stay hydrated, soldier.
I'll be the tipsiest one out there. I'll be the one leaning to the side.
Yeah. Well, Al, that, like I said, starts today. CU weekend, so
6 o'clock.
get on out, enjoy yourself. Only happens once a year.
Yep. I'm surprised they're not doing it. I mean, last year was Saturday and Sunday. This year is Friday and Saturday.
Yeah. Well, you normally on Sunday they do the gospel fest, and sometimes they'll do other events. I know softball used to go Saturday and Sunday when more guys played, but obviously we've got a little long in the tooth, so.
Yep. I don't know why to change.
But hey,
Speaking of change,
change. Where's change happening?
change is happening in Cleveland.
Drew and Wes reunited.
Pepsi conspiracy.
I'm telling you.
The families. Once they put that thing together.
Yep.
They're still,
Kevin Love's going to Cleveland.
still looking for a big man, though. Drew is.
Are you? I guess my question to start this whole thing. It was kind of a foregone conclusion when the conversation started that he was going to Cleveland a couple months ago. Are you surprised, like, now that they've made kind of the official announcement?
Doesn't seem all that exciting.
This is like Big Three light. When LeBron and Bosh and Wade all hooked up down there in Miami.
Yeah, all the pre-hype is just, sucked the life all out of the decision, if you want to call it that.
Mm-hmm.
But, they reached a deal where Minnesota would get a couple of first-round draft choices.
Yeah, look, what, Andrew Wiggins?
Yeah,
Wiggins,
Andrew Wiggins.
Bennett.
Anthony Bennett. And a future, I think,
2015.
the 2015 first-round pick, unless, now this is the classic, unless it's a lottery pick. Like Cleveland, with this team, would be in the lottery next year. So they're going to get that pick.
Mm-hmm.
There's a third team actually involved, Philadelphia. I think Thaddeus Young is going to be moving. I think Bennett is actually going to go not to Minnesota, but to Philadelphia. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of movement, but this lends itself, me and my conspiracy theories, and you go back 5 years ago when LeBron left Cleveland, and Daniel Gilbert just made the biggest stink in the world about LeBron leaving and how it affected the city and the economy, and how upset he was and why. Then he was actually instrumental in, remember when Chris Paul was trying to go to the Lakers?
Mm-hmm.
He was one of the owners instrumental in blocking that trade. And Chris Paul obviously ended up in LA, but with the other team, the Clippers. Then he gets the lottery pick, the first pick in the draft, 3 the next 4 years?
Right?
Yeah.
You do what works for you.
And then, after going through all that, LeBron comes back, and then it's like, okay, so since you got him back, you have to give up those 3 picks that you got other than Kyrie Irving. Thoughts?
Well, my first thought is, who knew that Kyrie Irving's Australian?
That
I did not know that.
He did.
Well, yeah, besides him and his mom and dad.
dad, right? And the doctor in Australia.
Yeah. I did not know that. That was an interesting little trivial
And Australian based on,
birth.
well, I was going to say based on the fact was his family there, a military assignment, or were they actually just living in Australia at the time? What's the circumstances as to
9 months before he was born. No, I think it said his dad was playing professional basketball overseas,
Okay,
and he signed and stayed there for 10 or 15 years or something like that.
okay.
But does that make him Australian?
If you're born there, it does. He holds a dual citizenship.
Wait a minute. What did you just say?
Does that make him
Make-
Australian?
Concussion symptoms.
I mean,
So if you're born here in the United States, but you're not American,
hold on. Just like military families who, like over in Germany, when their children are born, they're not German.
okay, thank you.
My son, middle one, born in the country of Panama. Instead of getting a birth certificate, you get a report of a U.S. citizen born abroad. He also got a Panamanian passport when he was born, so he holds a dual citizenship.
So he's Panamanian and American. Two.
So Kyrie Irving would be what?
Australian,
And
American. Two mints in one.
with no concussion syndrome.
Right. And Retson for fresh breath.
That's good for him then, I
And
guess.
he's playing with Wes again.
Wes who?
Dude, YouTube it, Pepsi Max
No,
commercials.
you overload.
Sorry.
You're giving him too much.
I'll show you later.
He's working on the citizenship thing right now.
Figure it out.
Right, because he's already. So if like an Australian was here in America,
I understand.
I'm just.
Don't try me.
I'm just. Hey.
Don't try me.
Hey.
So is he Australian though?
Unless the dingo ate his baby, you got to think
Or
about
a
it.
kangaroo?
The
Or
hopper.
crocodile?
Dundee. Now that's a knife. That silence says many things,
I'm through with y'all.
and I can interpret that as go to.
Next.
I'm moving
Let's
on.
talk about Kevin Durant.
But the last thing I'll say on the Kevin Love deal, Vegas already made Cleveland a 3-1 favorite to win the NBA final.
It's a little premature, isn't it?
No, it's not.
No, not really. Who's going to beat him?
Look at the East. We talked about this before. Just by LeBron going to Cleveland,
Going to the East.
right? That made Cleveland
Yeah,
an Eastern Conference finalist. Just by him going there. Now you take Kevin Love, who is arguably, if not the best stretch four in the game right now.
2020 guy every night.
You now put him with LeBron. You got Tristan Thompson and Anderson Varejao, who basically their jobs will be to play defense and rebound.
That's it.
They don't have to do anything else.
Set a pick every once.
There you go. Then at the guard position, you got Deion Waiters, Kyrie Irving. Mike Miller's coming on, so you got a 3-point specialist going there. Ray Allen's still contemplating whether he should go there or not.
I think he should ask Jesus.
No, he should ask Denzel.
Denzel, yeah,
Right.
okay, there you go.
I'm weighing my options.
What should I do? Denzel.
That's it. So you look at it now. The Bulls, obviously, with the way that Derrick Rose looked last Friday in the exhibition, which will be our segue into Kevin Durant. The Bulls will be a formidable opponent. What happens in New York, Washington still, after what they did in the playoffs, they'll be okay, but
Indiana's pretty much out
Oh.
there.
Yeah, they're pretty much done.
we'll definitely be talking about that. But I think Cleveland right now odds-on favorite to win the East and go up against San Antonio.
I wonder, have have all the bandwagon Heat players and fled over to the Cavaliers?
Oh yeah, you know.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
In this day and age of instant gratification, I've always been a Cavalier fan.
Probably,
See,
don't,
I still got my LeBron jersey.
Okay.
probably don't even know where Cleveland is.
Don't ask him.
Cleveland, Miami.
It's
Cleveland, Florida.
It's not. No, it's Cleveland, Miami.
Yeah.
It's the same place.
It's in Ohio.
Speaking of San Antonio, I just want to say something real quick. They made some history this week when they hired Becky Hammond, a WNBA 13, 14, 15-year vet who played for the San Antonio Lynx, I think it is. Popovich hired her as an assistant coach.
And one of the things he said to her is that you know basketball.
Oh, yes, she does.
And because she knows basketball, that's why he hired her. You know, a lot of people made the commentary, you know, it's groundbreaking, which I think is fantastic. The number of women who've been involved in basketball over the decades, you know, Pat Summitt immediately comes to mind, somebody that, you know, before her.
Vivian Stringer.
Vivian Stringer. I mean, even Teresa Grants, who was here, has a vast history in
Hall of Famer.
But to have an opportunity like this to come in and be hired by the NBA champs, I think that's the first thing.
Yeah.
You know, usually a move like this is made by a lesser team that's trying to, a gimmick, so to speak, to sell tickets.
Yeah, I think that one other woman, I can't think of her name, was hired as an assistant for an NBA team, which it was only on a short-term basis. I can't remember her name right offhand. I probably have to look.
I know Nancy Lieberman got an opportunity to try out. She was the first woman who got an opportunity to try out and play exhibition ball. But for Becky Hammond to get this opportunity, as Mike said, this is groundbreaking.
Well, and officially, as Sarge just said, she officially is the second woman hired as an assistant coach.
Okay.
I think it was New Jersey or an East Coast team. I want to say hired the first girl,
Right.
first lady. Sorry.
Can't think of her name. How you think the guys gonna go?
San Antonio? It won't be a problem
It's basketball.
because Popovich said so.
And the fact is Mike's,
She knows what she's talking about.
she's a 15-year veteran. She's a winner. She knows the game. I think, you know, a lot of times when we get into gender and race and things of that nature, the barriers come down as the aptitude goes up. And when you have an individual like this who's, you know, been involved in the game their entire life and knows the game, I don't think Tim Duncan and them are going to be saying, "Oh, you're a girl. This is not Little League," and I'm going to have a story about that a little bit later, but they won't look at her based on her gender. They'll be talking to her based on her expertise of the game.
Well, and if they do talk to her about her gender, she'll knock them out because she's a feisty young lady. And the good part is she's been in San Antonio for a decade, so they all know her.
And she's been around the program. It's not, I think that's the other thing. She's been there involved with the Spurs when she's not playing.
Right, because the seasons are they follow in all essence, or in essence.
But
I just think it was just a great move.
yeah. And like I said, by a championship caliber organization like San Antonio to do that really gives more credibility to the hire. And like I said, it takes away the gimmicky things that, you know, you see happening in professional sports where teams will do that because they're trying to sell some tickets and get butts in the seats. You know, they already got all the butts in the seats being the defending champ. It's now about, you know, getting more expertise on the bench. But as you were saying earlier, sir, about the USA basketball.
Kevin Durant, he withdrew Thursday from consideration for the Team USA before the FIBA World Cup, citing physical and mental fatigue. Let me see. He approached Jerry Colangelo, is that how you pronounce his name?
Colangelo.
Yep, and Durant reached out to him and Coach Mike on Thursday afternoon and expressed that Krzyzewski, I sort of say Mike
K.
Coach
Mike
K.
K.
Coach K.
Expressed that he was physically and mentally drained from the NBA season and his attention to his many responsibilities. So he decided to walk away from the trials. He probably saw George get hurt. He said, "Oh, I don't want no more of this."
350 million reasons why not to.
and decided to quit.
Well, Mike just said it. He's under negotiation right now with Under Armour for a 10-year deal that could pay him in excess of $350 million. It ain't worth trying to win a World Cup, FIBA World Cup gold medal right after you saw Paul George just possibly end his career.
Pull Kevin Ware.
You know, and Kevin Durant is the NBA MVP, reigning MVP, and I think between that, playing into June for his own team, OKC Thunder, and now you get a devastating injury to another superstar in the league, you start to balance things out and say, well, why am I playing basketball? I'm playing basketball for financial reasons. I may love the game, but if that can happen to Paul George, and in fact, going back to the Under Armour deal, you know, you got, we talked about Derrick Rose and gave him a lot of ribbing about not coming back because of 250 million reasons. Now he's got 350 million reasons not to play for.
Well, and it's not the Olympics either.
And see, and I'm glad you brought that up, Mike, because I think what we're going to see after this injury to Paul George, you know, USA Basketball has already come out and said there's not going to be changing their plans. I highly doubt it. I think what you're going to see is that tier 2 player.
The three of us will be getting called.
Bingo.
Well, you know, they just cut a bunch of players last week.
They might be calling some of them back.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. And you got people like Kevin Love, Blake Griffin, LaMarcus Aldridge, and Kawhi Leonard. They all
said no.
Yeah, they all said no.
Right. Because like Mike said, I think the concept when they brought the professional players back in '92, it was for the need of winning the Olympics and showing the world dominance that we have the best basketball players. But for the World Cup, you know, remember back in the day they used to have with the Pan American Games and all these other
games and
all of that, and the college players played in that. Well, now because they've changed the World Basketball Championship to the FIBA World Cup, and I don't think there's a country that challenges American basketball at this present moment. Like if you go back a few years ago, Argentina had a great team. Spain had a real good team. The Serbs even had a real good team.
Jerry Garcia.
You know, so you think about some of those teams. Those guys have gotten long in the tooth, and we haven't seen a real replacement of those players from those countries. And I think the other thing is American basketball has changed. It's changed to play the World Cup style. For many years, our bigs were taught, you know, you got a kid that was 6'8", 6'10". First thing we did as American coaches, put him down on the block.
Right.
The only thing you're going to do is dunk and rebound, block shots. And
dope a hook every once in a while.
And when they started playing in international competition, their bigs were taking these guys out to the three-point line. They were shooting threes over them, putting the ball on the floor. And we were like, we can't compete against international bigs because they're playing on the perimeter. Well, what happens now? Kevin Durant, Anthony Davis,
LeBron, for that matter.
LeBron, Kevin Love, we just talked about, Chris Bosh. You see it now where most bigs play facing the basket and they play on the perimeter. They handle the basketball. So there's so many more players coming into the NBA system that can do that you don't need your top level players to win international competition anymore.
Well, that leaves 15 finalists for the team, and they're scheduled to resume preparations for the World Cup on August 14th in Chicago. Now, their odds to win it has went from 2-7 to 2-5, while Spain, you talked about them earlier, went from 5-2 to 2-1. That's according to Las Vegas Superbooks. All other odds remain the same. So Spain is now the favorite to win the World Cup.
Well, you look at who Spain has. They've got the Gasol brothers.
Mark and Paul.
What's it, Ricky
Rubio.
Ricky Rubio.
How about the one guy that's going to the Bulls?
The guy from the Bulls. The guy.
You've got
the guy on the Spurs, I think. No, he's Italian. I'm sorry.
The guy that plays for Portland. I think he's from Spain. is it Fernandez? He
Yeah. I think
shooting
you're
guard.
right. Yep.
So they do have some formidable players, but all in all, you still can take you can take the Derrick Rose and a Paul Millsap, because what'll probably happen, they'll probably bring, because Millsap was one of the guys that was sent home,
Yeah.
but he'll
Come
probably
back.
be called back to take the fact that George and Kevin Durant are now gone. But even if they don't win it,
Who cares? It's not the Olympics.
right?
It's not the NBA championship.
The goal of USA basketball was to reestablish our dominance in international ball. And if you don't win the World Cup, I don't think people, have any question on that. It's winning the Olympics.
Well,
So-
and the other thing is, as you said, the world has gotten so much better at basketball. It's not that big, huge shock if the USA doesn't win.
Because the other thing you got to remember, we're playing with a all-star team that's basically put together in 6 weeks
Right.
in these competitions. When these guys go back, like for example, let's use Manu Ginobili. He can't play for Argentina this year because he's got a stress fracture. And so the Spurs actually blocked him from even playing in international ball. But going back to what I was going to say, if he would have gone back, he's playing with his country's national team. These guys play together all the time. So I think that's one of the other things that has, with USA basketball, even though they've done a great job, we got better talent than anybody else. You're still taking basically an all-star team, throwing it together and trying to get it to play in a cohesive unit in 6 weeks. So August 30th is when the World Cup starts.
Is that when it starts?
So basically they've got 3 weeks from now to finalize the roster and get everybody together. And I still think they'll win it. It may be a struggle when they play Spain, but they'll still win it.
Well, and Colangelo has done a great job. And for young folks that don't know, he's a U of I grad, former player. He did he own them or run the Phoenix Suns for a
Owned
long
the
time?
Phoenix
Owned them for
Suns.
a long time. Gave that up and took over USA basketball. So, and Coach K is Coach K.
Right.
Like love him or hate Duke, whatever, he's still Coach K.
And remember who else they've got as coaches.
Oh yeah.
It's not Coach K and some
the
assistants.
three of us. Yeah.
Right. Well, Sarge.
Well,
I'll be out there.
But I mean, guys like Jim Boeheim who were involved in it. You got Tom Thibodeau as an assistant coach.
Right.
The coach of the Bulls. You've got some real formidable coaches on that staff. So, does it hurt to lose Durant and Paul George and the other guys that Sarge named off? Yes. Will they still be able at least get to the finals?
We'll be all right.
Yep.
All right, we're going to step down and take a break. When we come back, we're going to keep it in the NBA. Adam Silver's, his time has come. Greg Oden, he was arrested for punching out his ex-girlfriend a couple of days ago. We're going to see what's happened to him. Of course, he's not with an NBA team right now, so basically, NBA can't do nothing until he signs with a team.
There's collective bargaining.
Yep. So we got all that and more coming up when we come back. You be sure and stay tuned.
Welcome back. Talking Sports, WBCP 1580. CU Weekend, UPTV Channel 6, 99 on Uverse,
Don't forget China.
Chinese cable,
$3.79 or something.
$3.79. Right after that, fingertip kung fu fighting.
We glad they're tuning in to us over in China.
We appreciate that. You catch us online, WBCP1580.com. So all you streamers out there, what's going on? Welcome to all the folks who are here in town. CU Weekend. We have a travel trove of folks who come to this area this time of year. The second weekend in August. Doesn't seem like it because it's a single digit weekend. 8, 9.
Well, normally it's 11, 12, 10, 11.
Thank you, Captain Obvious, for that
Single
explanation.
digit.
I know that.
Love you to death, man. Love you like play cuz.
Hey, I'm just adding my 2 cents in.
Yeah, well, keep a nickel. Keep a nickel. But, yep, see you weekend. We talked earlier about all activities. Starting tonight, 6 o'clock. Stuff going on in the park. If you don't get a chance to get out in the park tonight, Soma's at 6 o'clock. Put your money where your mouth is, Dr. Will Patterson. Go get you a drink and some horse divers.
Yeah, they got a couple of things going on.
Old school, 90s party, Banner Civic Center. Tiger White and the gang putting on something over there.
It's over on my side of
On your side of the tracks?
my side of the track.
Man, there's a lot of tracks around here.
I know it.
Just got to figure out which side of the tracks you're on.
I'm on that side.
A lot of NBA news. We're just talking about Kevin Durant and him withdrawing from USA basketball to rejuvenate his mind and his body. Also rejuvenate his bank account. His Under Armour's getting ready to give him a nice little bump.
His life just like a sandwich. You ready for the punchline?
Yes.
Fire away.
No matter which side you turn it, always bread first.
Boo! They're coming out of the stands. Oh, get
come on.
him.
You didn't like that one?
Nah. I hope you don't have more. Good try, though.
All right.
But Kevin Durant, Paul George, broken leg. I think everybody by now has seen that injury and the ramifications for the Indiana Pacers are going to be. This is a franchise changing event because Paul George obviously is the best player on the Pacers. They just came out of the Eastern Conference Finals where they lost to the Heat but in 6. They just lost Lance Stevenson in free agency to Charlotte, the blower. And now he leaves, and then you lose Paul George, arguably, like I said, your best player on the team. And there was already conversation about, blowing the team up anyway.
Well, it's happening.
If you're Larry Bird, do you stay status quo with the team and hope that maybe, Paul George does come back next year and comes back just like he is, what he did in his first 4 years? Or do you say, you know what, with this happening, I'm just jumping ship?
Well, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, if I'm Larry Bird, first thing I do is I ask Paul George for that extra set of keys to that brand new Lamborghini he just bought.
Well, Bird he said he's optimistic about what the doctor's saying about him and his comeback. So I think he's gonna stay pretty much where he's at until he finds out how bad it is for George and whether or not he'll be able to come back this season. They already said that he probably wouldn't, but
Right.
I think he's remaining optimistic though.
Well, and you also reach out 2 hours south of there to Rick Pitino and the doctors that took care of Kevin Ware, and talk to them about any problems that Ware may have had with a similar injury, and just kind of gain some knowledge that way of.
Well, we do know that Ware ended up transferring out of Louisville.
Yeah.
And he didn't come back. And the question is now, everybody says it was a clean break. They put a rod in, screws. Both the tibia and the fibia broke for Paul George. A lot of people say, well, I'd rather break a bone than to damage a ligament, because sometimes
No.
well, today's surgery that they have for ligament tears, I don't know. I think maybe there might be an argument there in terms of, you don't want to get injured at all.
Yeah.
But whatever the lesser of the two evils are, you've got about 9 months to find out whether Paul George will be Paul George. Because the other thing that, we tease the Derrick Rose fans and Derrick Rose, but the injury is more about the mental side than the physical side.
Yep.
Because the question comes to you, Paul George going back on defense, when he comes back, he's got an opportunity to maybe make a play like he did last Friday. Does he, or does his mental block come up and say, and he pulls up and gives the guy a free layup? are we going to see that? So there'll be a lot of questions that have to be answered for the Indiana Pacers, and this is just, man, you know.
Why is it football players don't have that same mentality?
What's that?
After they break something or
everybody
get an
does.
injury.
I think football, like Mike said, I think every athlete goes through that.
Here's a really good example of that. Locally, you said with your son just got cleared after he had his ACL fixed. The first time somebody rolls into his knee
And he jumped.
everything's going to go through his head. Oh my God, I just tore it up again.
Right.
And then he's going to take a step and go, oh, wait a minute, it works. Okay. So you've got to experience the hit or the trauma or the cut or the break or the jump or the whatever on the injured part of your body so that you get over the mental thing of, as you just said, Joe, do I go up and try to block it or not? So, but yeah, I mean, everybody, whether you're a professional athlete or weekend warrior softball player.
To go to your point, Sarge, about football players, Arian Foster, running back for the Houston Texans, he went out last year with a back injury. And they interviewed Arian Foster, and one of the first things he said was he started talking about life. Is it even worth playing football again? I'm 27 years old. I made a lot of money. So when you say, I think everybody in every sport, you may have a passion to play, but because of money, because you think about what happened, how sports has changed and shifted, because you can become financially secure early in your career, you don't have to go out there and play like some of the guys we used to watch play. A Dick Butkus, where he can barely move at the end of his career. Gale Sayers, whose knee got butchered and he tried to come back and wasn't the same. O.J. Simpson, after he had his knee injury and went out to San Francisco, it was a shut. We've seen guys play way past their prime or shouldn't be back on the field after the barbaric procedures that used to happen in the 60s and 70s. But because they couldn't be financially secure unless they played a long time, and today we got guys, as we just said about Kevin Durant in the last segment, he getting ready to get $350 to wear what Mike is wearing. Mike gets $3.50.
No, I don't.
You didn't
Like
get your
a
check?
$1.50.
$1.50? Oh, okay.
Man.
White guy can't jump.
Well,
And even, you talk about football players getting over, even Adrian Peterson, and he's a freak for coming back as quick as he did, he still had to get beyond that first hit because you just don't know.
Right.
Was it the Giants just had their running back
Ended his career.
Yeah.
David Wilson with his neck. And you figure he's only been in the league a couple years.
Yeah.
And now he's on ESPN. So,
It's a tough sport.
yeah. Tough life. Speaking of tough life,
Former NBA player, #1 draft choice Gray Oden, is out of jail following his arrest on battery charges for allegedly punching out his ex-girlfriend in the face. He was released from custody yesterday evening. Online Marion County jail records show Oden was released on $10,000 bond. Police arrested him on battery charges early Thursday, alleged that he punched out his ex-girlfriend in the face during a fight at his mother's suburban Indianapolis home. Prosecutors plan to request a 72-hour continuance to give them more time to decide what, if any, formal charges Oden will face. According to the police report, officers were called to the house around 3:30 a.m. and found a 24-year-old woman on a sofa with a swollen, bloody face. A friend of the woman told officers that Oden had punched her in the face. The injured woman, and now listen to this. The injured woman was uncooperative and told police she had fallen, but was unable to say when and where that occurred.
They'll charge her too.
Oden told officers he and the woman had dated for about 2 years, but split up 2 months ago, according to a report. He said he was arguing with his ex-girlfriend when things got out of control, and he struck her as he swung his arms to try to break free of 2 people who were trying to hold him back.
his mama and the friend.
Yeah, and as he was trying to swing through, he hit her in the face a couple times.
A couple times.
Couple times. Right.
Like, oh, look at
One of Odin's relatives who said she was awoken by the argument told police that every time the two visit and go out, there is an argument to follow.
They always doing this.
So, here's another domestic case, this time into the NBA. Just a few weeks ago, you know, that a big stunt got up and going about Ray Rice and the 2-game suspension that Goodell gave him for his domestic violence incident. Now you have one in the NBA. Now you have everybody turning to Adam Silver, the commish, and giving him a good hard look. What you gonna do?
I guess my response to this is, number one, Greg Oden is not on the same level of visibility and stardom as a Ray Rice. So when it
But does that make it any less?
No.
I'll let you finish.
Thank you. Number two, Greg Oden is even under contract with a team right now. So I think the point of making those two statements is that this is not going to have, and number three, we live in a visual society. We didn't see Ray Rice punch his girl, but we saw him do the caveman and drag her out of the elevator unconscious. And I think the visual has a more of an effect on our emotions in terms of the citizenry when we watch things and say, oh, that, you know,
That ain't right.
that ain't right. If you read a story about some puppies, not to compare this situation, but when you read a story, you're like, okay, that's a nice story. But then when you see it, it changes your emotions. And I think that's what happened with the Ray Rice situation compared to what you're talking about here with Greg Oden. I think what will he will get suspended.
If he gets back on the league.
And I think that's the thing. Sometimes the league can cannibalize their own to save themselves. So what may happen,
Nobody offer him.
right, and so you go through this 14-15 season, Greg Oden just doesn't play basketball.
Right.
That's a self-imposed punishment by everybody in the league. Adam Silver doesn't have to do anything. Once again, the NBA wipes their hands of the situation. So that's the
But-
way this thing can work for.
So in your opinion, Odin is not going to get picked up this season by any team.
I'm saying that is a way that the NBA can, you know, self-impose sanctions on Greg Oden without Adam Silver having to make a public statement on the issue or making any type of punishment based on their collective bargaining agreement. Because remember last week when we talked about Ray Rice, because Ray Rice was a visible figure and, as we talked about, visual, seeing the effects of that video that everybody got to see, I think that's when people were clamoring, you got to do some Goodell, you know, and his issue was he was too busy trying to, as Mike said it best off the air, Roger Goodell spent more time trying to be the smartest guy in the room,
Take this.
you know, as opposed to being the smartest guy in the room. What he should have been doing is trying to be a commissioner for the league and letting his fan base know this is not tolerated.
Right. Well, and the other thing is honestly, what did Odin do last year that would cause any team to go, yeah, he's playing well.
Right.
We'll take a chance on him.
You think about it. Miami was the only team that took a shot on Odin, and the reason why they did that was
he's
because
LeBron's
of
twin.
that.
Or his daddy, one of the two.
I think he's more of his father than.
Yeah, that could be.
But Andrew Bynum, Miami was more concerned about if Bynum came to Indiana, what kind of effect would that have? And so they did a counter move and brought Odin in. Bynum didn't pan out for nothing. And so it was like, well, we don't even need him. And then when they did play him, I mean, his career was over with 2 years ago, you know, with the knee injuries that he's had. And they brought him back in. Right now, he's really not an effective player. So I think, you know, with all of that put on the table, I don't think this story will rise to the level of the Ray Rice story.
Interesting.
Yeah.
But it'll be interesting to see what happens, though.
Yeah. Agreed.
All right, what else we got here? The NCAA board has gave the big power conferences a lot of leeway. The NCAA Division I Board of Directors on Thursday voted 16-2 to allow the schools in the top 5 conferences to write many of their own rules.
Haven't they been doing that already?
Huh?
No, I just said, hasn't Alabama and Auburn and all them in the SEC already been doing that?
Yeah, for the most part. This will permit those leagues to decide on things such as cost of attendance stipends and insurance benefits for players, staff sizes, recruiting rules, and mandatory hours spent on individual sports.
NCAA memo goes out. Can't sue us anymore.
What
Yeah.
that is, and the way Mike started off, and I will jump right on his tail and ride it. The NCAA sees the writing on the wall with the Northwestern unionization move last year.
We still haven't found out what the vote was on that.
No, we haven't.
I don't think you'll ever find out the numbers on it. I think
No.
you'll find out
Either
yes or no.
but you'll never find the numbers on it. But with the Northwestern unionization, with pending lawsuits in terms of stipends, lawsuits in terms of concussion and continuance of long-term care after you play, the NCAA wants no part of it.
Even the use of likeness thing with EA Sports.
Right, with the EA Sports situation. They don't want any part of it. So, but where does most of this come from? You got firepower conferences. You got the Big Ten, you got the SEC, you got the ACC, you got the Pac-12, you got the Big 12. Those are your 5 power conferences. Out of those 5 conferences, your national champ SEC is 7 of the last 8 have come from there.
ACC, the other one.
Right. You got Ohio State, Michigan. You got 2 more schools that came into the Big Ten, Maryland and Rutgers. The NCAA is basically saying, look,
Good luck, fellas.
you guys
Do whatever you want to
do whatever you want to do. You know,
We're a non-profit. You ain't suing us.
it's like having a velvet rope at the club.
Mhm.
And the big boys with the big money, they can go on that side of the velvet rope,
The rest of us over here.
over
waiting.
here drinking beer. You know,
Cheap beer.
cheap beer, right?
PBR or something.
Beer.
Beer.
We're just drinking beer.
Beer.
You know, they got a microbrewery in the back and they're making us beer.
Allegedly. Yeah.
But everybody else is drinking Cristal, so they make your own rules, do your own thing, because the NCAA knows. There's, I keep saying it, all this money, the billions of dollars, the SEC just, they'll be kicking off their network.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, this fall.
Cable companies are. I was talking to mine the other day, and they're like, "Oh man, they're shoving that down our throat."
Right.
Yeah, that's ESPN got a big head in that also.
Yeah, they
That's
do.
it.
And slash ABC slash Disney.
Right. We already know about the Big Ten network. You know, Texas has been working for years on having their
They've
own
got their own network.
network.
Just for Texas, like Notre
Right,
Dame
not-
has NBC.
There you go.
Texas has the Texas network,
Right.
the Longhorn network, whatever it's called.
And so, what can the NCAA do in terms of regulating what happens there when they've gone out and they've made their own specific contract with people, sponsorship in terms, you know, we just talked about Under Armour, so imagine how much Adidas and Nike and you know, Gatorade and all are throwing at these schools. NCAA can't do anything about it anymore.
All
Well,
right.
I was just gonna say what's really good to hear though is I think it's in today's paper. They quoted Mason Monheim, a linebacker football player, when they were talking about the autonomy vote, and he's like, "I don't get it. You know, I don't stay involved in that. We get a lot already." So it was nice to hear a college kid say that.
That they get a lot already.
Yeah.
But here's what's going to happen. I want you guys to jump in your Wayback Machines and go back several months when we was having this conversation about pay for play. And remember, Sarge, you were like, well, what about, you know, if one school has a lot of money and, you know, won't they have a unfair advantage over other schools?
Yeah, your smaller schools. This is going to hurt your smaller schools.
Well, it'll be interesting to see if some of those smaller schools get together and sue the NCAA and go, "Why can't we do that?" and give us the money to do it.
Yeah. And now there is your answer about fairness. That's why they said, all right, you big guys, go do your own thing. You know, what you're starting to see is the shrinking of the NCAA. So if you're a smaller school, you don't have the resources, you'll play under the umbrella of the NCAA. They'll protect you here and there, but you're not going to, no longer will the 5-star, 4-star kid even think about going to a smaller school.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
You know, why would
Why?
you? That's it. Why would you?
Because one of the things that they're going to be able to do is they can offer 4-year scholarships, guaranteed.
As opposed to 1-year renewals.
Yep. And they also have the full cost of attendance stipends, which could be worth between $2,000 and $5,000 per player.
So now I get a full ride guaranteed. I can get a couple grand in my pocket.
Mm-hmm.
I can get my health care so that even when I'm done playing, they still, let's say I injured myself in my junior year, that health care still extends out if I need it past the time I'm at that school.
Why do I want to go to Alcorn State?
That's the point.
Even though my entire family's going to Alcorn State, they never got any of this.
Right. And now I can go to the University of Auburn or Alabama or
Nick,
Tennessee.
how you doing, Saban?
There you go.
Yeah, the league outside of the Power 5 can opt to adopt the same rules. But it says many of the schools won't be able to afford measures like the cost of attendance stipends, and that could create an even larger competitive imbalance between schools in the power conferences and those in the league like the Sun Belt, MAC, or even the FSC.
Mm-hmm.
I mean the FCS. So
this is, like I said, go
Beginning
back.
of the end.
This is what you predicted yourself, Obi-Wan. You asked the question back then.
We should play tape back for him.
Right. Luke, how will the smaller schools be able to compete? They won't. Jedi.
so I mean this could be the
Beginning of the end.
for athletics in small schools.
I won't know if it will be the end of athletics, but what will happen now is this is where, the shrinkage of programs. Maybe they won't offer as many opportunities to play at these schools at different sports because now that the revenue would shrink on them, the football program, which sustains a lot of the non-revenue generating sports, softball for women, baseball for men may have to go at a particular school because with Title IX,
Yeah, that comes into play.
so you got to
You get rid of one.
you got to get rid of the other. That's it.
But is it with this Division I thing? Now this includes all sports. That includes the baseball, the golf,
Yep.
the swim team, the tennis team. Everybody.
Rhythmic gymnastics. Or
Yeah,
whatever they're
everybody, every player would be entitled to these
Yeah.
rules.
And that's the point we're making, is that if I'm at a smaller school where my pot is smaller, if I try to do that, the only way I could do it, I might have to jettison some of the programs to pay the other folks. And in that case, a lot of people are going to get hurt by it.
And just so I can piss off the entire world, soccer would be the first one to go.
Soccer's a collegiate sport.
Supposedly.
Yeah, they play.
I piss off the other half of the world.
Thank you. Very good.
They building a brand new field out there at the U of I. They're doing a lot of building now.
That's the golf thing.
No, they did one for soccer as
they?
well. Yeah, they redoing the field and everything.
Speaking of field, in U of I, NCAA, need somebody to explain this to me who knows grass.
Okay.
How does Illinois, their first day of practice, they've got Bermuda grass for their outside practice field,
Mm-hmm.
and it gets torn up the first day because the statement was, since we've had a mild summer, we didn't have one of those hot summers for the Bermuda grass to catch. And my question is, why is the football team practicing on Bermuda grass when they don't play on Bermuda grass?
Because it doesn't cost as much to replace as turf does.
This is true. You can always throw it out to the season.
And why it got torn up? How much rain have we had recently?
Right. Oh, I know that. But my point is,
you gotta get that grass time to root. to grow.
Boom, he comes out of the bullpen.
There you go. Those are 97-mile-an-hour fastball. Whoa! Root. That, today's word is root, brought to you by Sergeant Rock. I understand that, Obi-Wan of grass. The point I was making is that you don't even play on grass. How many grass fields will Illinois play on this year?
Probably none. Oh, wait a minute. They go to the horseshoe, the big house?
Yeah, and I don't think they've got grass. I think that's
That sport.
the sport turf that everybody else in the world has with the chewed up rubber that looks like dirt every time somebody slides or whatever. Now, your indoor facility, obviously, is sports turf, but you can't grow grass indoors. Your home field is sports turf. They try to practice and they tear it up, so they got to go inside. So they've been practicing at Memorial Stadium.
But hold on, didn't they just put that in outdoors, didn't they? Did I see that on the news a few nights ago?
No. It was just the fact, as Mike said, we got a lot of rain, and we've had a particularly mild summer.
It hasn't been really hot to bake it into the ground.
Right.
Or to root.
Root.
Well, my question is, if they can put Bermuda grass, the outdoor facility for the football team, and it grow apparently well, because every time I've driven past it, it looks really green. Why can't they put that on the golf course down in Savoy?
Because it's not under the umbrella of the
Football team?
football or the Department of Athletics. That's why they're building, as Sarge said, their
Well,
own.
but they've got a really nice little pitching and putting thing that's reserved for the U of I golf teams down there.
And what did you? How did you start it off with the adjective? A really nice.
Yeah. So I'm just hoping, wishing. That's all.
Yeah, I'm not, like I said, I know they'll be going to Camp Rantoul this weekend,
Yeah, I think it's this weekend.
and they'll be practicing on grass. So I've never, I'm asking a question, I'm assuming the answer. I understand why they did the Camp Rantoul. That started with Ron Turner?
Yeah, they've been going there for what, about 10, 11 years.
Yeah. And I understand why they do Camp Rantoul. It's that get away, build the camaraderie, even though guys are together all the time on camp.
Concentrate just on
Football, right. You got to stay up there in Rantucky for, as long as you can.
You can't get in trouble up there, but not much.
With who?
The locals.
You climbed an old rocket. you jumped on an old airplane.
You could drown in the water park.
Yeah, after hours, maybe.
After hours, yeah.
But I was just throwing that out. I know, like I said, they don't start till next week on that, and we'll obviously have more conversation next week.
Well, back when he's still saying that the quarterback position is still open.
He can't say anything but that.
That
And they had a nice little talk with the Aaron's kid,
Aaron Bailey.
and he says he's there to play quarterback. And it seems to me that when I was listening to him, he's there to play quarterback even if it's second string.
He said Illinois is his school. He loves Illinois. First of all, he said all the right things.
Yeah.
Which shows you that they've done a good job in terms of working on public relations with all the athletes.
Come here, dude. This is what you gonna say.
Right. And this is all you're gonna say. And I think they've done a good job there. And to his credit, he made the statement, hey, competition, I'm not running from competition. But we've talked about this before. He's a 5-star in-state recruit. And you don't get 5-star in-state recruits to come to the University of Illinois. But when Wes Lunt decided to transfer, and they went out and basically re-recruited Wes Lunt.
Because didn't Bailey sign whatever after Lunt said he was coming? I thought it was after.
No. No, he had already made his commitment.
Oh, you're right. Yeah.
To come here. And then that's when the West Lunt sweepstakes. And I mean, you can't blame. First of all, when you look at talent, you go after as much talent because you can't have one good quarterback.
You can't have too much talent either.
That's it. And if you look at what Illinois has, if you start with Riley O'Toole, Bailey, and then Lunt, you've got the last 3 players of the year in the state of Illinois in terms of quarterbacks on your team. You know,
And that's never a bad thing.
no. But now the issue is, you said they haven't announced the starting quarterback, and I think everybody other than Ray Charles and Stevie Wonder know who the starting quarterback is going to be.
And that includes, I mean, even though Bailey's saying the right things and Lunt's saying the right things and Coach Cubitt's saying the right things and Beckman and everybody's saying the right things, they know.
Right.
They're there at practice. They know who's doing better and who's not doing better.
Right.
But not that he needs anybody's defense, but if you're Aaron Bailey, as you said, 5-star recruit, why would you not want to play in Bill Cubitt's offense as a quarterback?
Right.
I mean, yeah, there are other offenses out there that you can do similar things, but just having watched it last year, I can't.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, Lunt's not the stoutest person around because he got hurt.
At Oklahoma State. That's why he's here.
Right. But I think they brought him in for his throwing prowess. He can get the ball downfield.
Who's that, Westlawn?
Yeah.
They brought him in because he's an NFL. They took his transfer because he's talented. He's an NFL type quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
Aaron Bailey's the same type of thing.
And Aaron Bailey can move, and I think
And I think he's bigger too.
I think the issue that's going to come up, you know, for years Illinois has had issues with the offensive line.
Mm-hmm.
Number one, will this year's offensive line hold up to protect West Lunt? If it doesn't hold up, and Lunt gets hurt, and now or is ineffective, let's put it that way, because we're assuming that Lunt's going to go out there and, you know, tear up the record books, but the questions remain in terms of who is he throwing to?
Can they catch?
Can they move the chains? Can they score? I mean, we got to remember, you know, for all the things we're saying, these are all hyperbole because with Nathan Shieldhouse, he was a proven commodity for 4 years. There are some people who may not like Nathan Shieldhouse and, you know, and didn't think he had the greatest ability. But right now, in terms of statistical numbers,
Look how he blossomed under Cubitt.
there you go. Will West Lunt come in and play the same way as Shieldhouse or better? And will a team perform as a unit at a higher level? Because they averaged, almost 30 points a game last year. I mean, that's, you know,
That's impressive in college football.
And my point is, we put them down a lot.
They gave up a lot of points too.
And we know that defense gave up about 40 points a game.
Mm-hmm.
But my point is, when you change the driver of your sports car, no matter how good that driver is, sometimes there's a learning curve in terms of learning how to drive that car. And West Lunt, he had obviously all of last year to sit on the sideline and watch Shieldhouse study the Cubitt offense. You know, he had all of spring this year and this summer and coming in. So he's had a long time to kind of marinate in his system, for the lack of a better term.
Well, and the other thing we saw last year is, as you said, if he's not effective, he'll get pulled out. They'll switch in a heartbeat.
Right.
So it's go with the hot hand, whoever that may be. I just hope they put some pass plays in for Bailey because I could tackle him if I know he's running off that.
I was going to say, that's the thing. I hope they don't. I called it the Tebow, where, you know, when Tim Tebow was down in Florida, he came in, you knew they were going to run it.
Right.
You know, and the only other thing they did with Tebow is a jump pass down there. Hopefully Aaron Bailey is put in where he gets an opportunity, as you said, to actually throw the ball downfield. Because I think that's the other thing that I test. As fans, we want to be able to see Lunt, and we also want to see Bailey. So then as a fan, you can make your own determination. Yep, that guy should be the starter, or nope, that guy should be the starter. So it's going to be interesting to see how they kind of mesh this thing together and get it to play out. But as you said earlier, not naming a starter out of all the teams in the there's 14 teams in the Big Ten.
There's 2 quarterback controversies going on, something like that.
And it's here. Last thing I'll say, Riley O'Toole, senior to be.
You gotta love Riley though.
To stick it out, he stayed.
Yeah.
that goes to the character of that young man. Because going back to what I said, think about when Riley O'Toole came here, and he was recruited as, just like we talked about with Aaron Baylor, in-state star.
The man.
Right. Had the big cannon arm out of high school, and everybody thought, okay, we bring this kid in, and this.
Won 2 consecutive state championships or something like that.
Yeah, they brought him in to bag up Shieldhouse.
They didn't bring him in
They didn't.
bring him in to bag him up.
Because you remember when he when they signed O'Toole and he came in, that was Nathan's sophomore year, I think it was, or going into his junior year maybe.
No, it was going into his sophomore year.
And everybody back then, 3-4 years ago, Shieldhouse couldn't throw it from here to the street. He had no arm. He's not a very good quarterback. He's not this. He's not that. And that's why they recruited Riley O'Toole, because he could throw a ball 80 yards in the air.
Right. But here it is 4 years later.
And Nathan's in Louisville working, I'm guessing, for Louisville Slugger or Rollins or somebody, and Riley's making commercials about Hump Day.
And still on the bench.
Shieldhouse got a job at the lumber yard.
Somewhere down in Louisville. With the paper said.
Yeah. So
That's
just a strange way of how this thing is played out.
Yeah, well, with Cuba coming out, that was that. Whoever approved that hire, that may turn out to be the best hire the University of Illinois football team has ever made, because he's an incredible coach. He was great up at Western Michigan, and folks didn't necessarily want to go to Kalamazoo to play Western Michigan because they're going to drop 50 points on you.
Well, go back just in the short history when Illinois played Western Michigan.
Right.
They didn't have good success playing against them. So,
and Cuba was set in Kalamazoo. He'd been there for a while. So,
well, this reminds me a lot of when Paul Petrino came here,
yeah.
and when Ron Zook was the coach, and they brought Petrino in, and he was going to do all these things with the offense, and as soon as his brother got a job, he
bailed,
broke camp, and he was out of here.
And we see how that worked out.
Right.
Isn't this the final year that the Illinois is supposed to be playing these second-tier schools, these Division II schools?
With the playoff now in football, wins don't necessarily count as much if it's lower level teams you're playing.
Right.
So everybody's changing it.
Right. So this will be, like you said, about
No more paycheck games.
no more bring your band, and we'll pay for them, feed them, and all that, entertain us, and we'll beat the crap out of you, and then give you a nice check to go back home.
Give you $1 million to go home.
Right. Those days, it goes back to what we talked about with the autonomy, and that's all a part of this new bowl playoff system, because 4 teams will be involved in that, and I can see it probably within the next 4 to 5 years, 8. It'll evolve 8
Right.
teams and so on.
Because I think a lot of teams would feel that they were deserving to be one of those 4 teams in the playoffs.
Oh yeah, I mean,
If you go to 8, there's going to be a 9th and a 10th team going, why aren't we in? I mean, it's always going to be there.
this is just like what happened with basketball. When basketball was 32 forever, and then it went to 48, and then it went to 54, and then it went to 64. And now we had a play-ins, so we got 68. So,
Well, and here's the other thing with football, and whether it's 4 teams or 8 teams, if you win all your games and you're beating quality opponents, that's all you can do.
I'm looking at eventually winding up with about 8 teams.
I've always, I've given my version. I'm not going to rehash that, but I've given my version of how you can use the teams who play in the BCS bowl games, and that could have been our playoff system. You still could have had your bowls, and then the winners from those bowls would just continue to play on. But
like Division I and FSB or whatever it's called have been doing forever.
right.
All right. Well, we got to take our final break. It's going to be a short one. Let me tell you, when we come back, NFL preseason got out of the way last night. I watched the Colts and the Jets play. Pretty decent ball game. It was a 10-10 tie until the waning minutes of the fourth quarter. Got to see Michael Vick do some.
He can still run.
Yeah, he had to.
Yeah, he did.
Second and third stringers blocking for him.
Yeah, he had to. So we'll be back right after these.
Welcome back. Talking Sports WBCP 1580, UPTV, Channel 6. U versus 99, Chinese cable.
379.
Ham radio.
Something QF1.
So yeah, some guy in his basement right now.
Try. Can't understand them.
They're talking about some foreign stuff.
But you know, I have gotten letters from and tapes from
Dixon Library?
no Oslo, Norway.
Schwinn.
Huh? No, Oslo. It's SOSLO. Norway.
Schwinn from Oslo.
No, that's not his name.
That's not his name.
Anyway, they picked up.
Tyrone from
You
Oslo.
mean it's not a her?
No, it's him. You know, they pick up that atmosphere
That's
skips.
scary.
You know, where they, they're radio listeners, and they pick up our station.
How back in the day we used to listen to WLS or something out of Little Rock, Arkansas.
Yeah.
Skip.
Yeah, that's what they do.
Yeah.
I found it to be pretty interesting.
So what you're saying is that when the signal is beamed out,
It just catches something and
The
just
jet stream.
takes it. And
Yep.
next thing you know, somebody's got a pretty big tower somewhere else,
sitting there,
picks it up.
have nothing to do but sit there and listen to their ham radio,
Right.
and all of a sudden you hear
Schwinn.
WBCP.
It's Sammy on the radio.
Right. So he tapes it and sends me a copy of the tape and a little letter describing who he is, this, that, and the other. I have one at my desk. I'm like,
I think you need to change the promo now that we're internationally known.
No, right. Internationally syndicated.
Mhm.
Now, here's my question. He sends you tapes, he sends you letters. Does he send you pictures? Sometimes it gets cold in Oslo.
I
Lonely
understand.
nights in Oslo, Sammy.
No pictures.
No pictures?
No
That
pictures.
he's willing to admit to.
Recently, though,
You can just imagine what I look like.
I can imagine. Probably like a
Let's
big old polar bear.
It's not Swiss Miss.
just check his Facebook page over here and see if he's on.
Anyway, yeah, we get hit around there. So.
Wow. You know, you learn today. I've learned about you and grass, root,
Yeah, had a root.
and now I've learned about radio signals being bounced around. And what else? Dual citizen.
It's been, I mean,
So
every day's a learning day.
So if you're not American but you're born in America,
You're Australian.
that's all I need to know.
NFL football last night.
Preseason is here. Now, it started last Sunday with the Hall of Fame game, Buffalo.
Well, that really didn't count.
Oh, because it's the Hall of Fame game?
No, because it sucked.
Right.
That really didn't count.
And preseason last night was the real preseason.
Yeah, there was some hitting going on last
Wink.
night.
You talked about the New York Jetsons.
And the Colts were on television last night. Well, it was on mine anyway. And I mean, there was some defense getting after the quarterbacks last night.
Question for you. Think Michael Vick just kind of laying in wait? Just waiting for Geno Smith to fall off to the wayside and
For the
then
most part.
he'll step in?
Well, when you look out, both of them, they really didn't do too much, anything impressive. So I don't know what you're actually looking for in these games, especially when you're only getting a couple of series. I think Vic was in there a little bit longer than Smith was, but there was some defense was coming after those quarterbacks. So when they dropped back to pass, you were getting 5, 6 men rushing.
Do you think, with the number of years you've watched football, even at the tender age of 46, you've watched a lot of football.
Yes, I have.
That was just to let your buddy know in Oslo how old you were.
Don't give me away. Don't give me away.
Okay, Snow Cone. But I guess the question would be, is preseason necessary at this point? The way the NFL is set up, meaning, the NFL used to be, they came into training camp in July, guys were out of shape, fat, full of beer, cigarettes, red meat, and they had to spend 6 weeks to get in shape. And then they played the preseason games during that time period to get in football shape.
You still have to evaluate some players.
But now football is a year-round sport. Other than March, which is the month of free agency, they practice, train, OTAs, mini camps every month. So you mean to tell me that as a qualified NFL coach or assistant coach, they can't evaluate talent just based on camp?
We're talking about in game situations, though. I mean, they're already talking about just going to 2 preseason games.
Mm-hmm.
In addition to adding, 2 more games to the
Right,
schedule?
so which to me is ridiculous. If you add 2 more games to the NFL season, the potential for injury.
That's 2 more games we get to watch on Sunday.
Yeah, but now, is there a point of oversaturation?
They're trying to make up for Ray Rice. Get to 2 extra games.
Get to 2 extra.
So you get that big check.
I mean, not only that. I mean, we go on the third. You're gonna have about 3 or 4 games on Thursday night,
Sunday night.
Yeah.
Now I'm speaking from a player's perspective. Number one, they don't get paid for preseason games.
Well, the owners will argue, yes, they do. It's included in their regular season game check.
But you just said it, regular season game check. So I got to wait till the regular season to start getting my game check. So during this time period, I'm not getting any compensation.
I don't get a practice check.
No.
Hope you save your money appropriately.
But now, this is the conversation about young guy, lots of money. You get, 16 games, so you get 16 checks. So think about all 3 of us, and imagine that if the last time you get a check for your job is January. And from January until September, you don't get another check.
I got my signing bonus.
I'm not arguing about all the money that you got, but I'm talking about the way the normal American lives. You anticipate some money every week or every 2 weeks in this country based on our pay scale. And now you become a NFL football player and you don't get any money until your first game check.
Do you get extra money if they're in the playoffs?
Yeah.
Okay.
Not to mention other incentives.
And that's why I said January, because
right.
the Super Bowl's in February.
Right.
So let's say you played all the way, you lose in the conference championship. So you lose in January.
So you're done.
You're done.
February 1st.
Now we're going to February. And you didn't go to Pro Bowl.
Right.
So you didn't get any bonus money for that.
Well, that's why what we talked about this last week or 2 weeks ago. Why what Brandon Lloyd has been doing, going out and working a regular job when he's not playing football is so impressive. Mm-hmm. That he gets it, he understands it.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, we all know when that Wednesday and Thursday before payday, how we're eating ramen noodles and stuff.
Mm-hmm. But don't you think, going back to the point about no preseason, if they do all this practicing and, like I said, mini camps and OTAs, that coaches can't evaluate? Now you said, game situation. If you're bad in practice, you're bad in the game, is my point.
Well,
when you say game situation, I know some guys react a little bit differently under pressure than.
And not only that, you play different when you play in somebody else other than your own teammate. Because your first string offense probably line it up against the second string defense for the most part. Until you get into, those scrimmages, maybe when the first team takes on the first team defense. So, for the most part, you just hitting second stringers. So you want to get up against some first stringers, different first stringers,
right.
Other teams.
I was just throwing that out because going back to last night's action and what you just brought up, do you see continuity in the game because, you might get the starters come in for 10 plays.
Right.
And now, Michael Vick, 12-year veteran, gets put behind an offensive line of turds who are just trying to make, one of the 5 may make it.
Right.
And I'm back there risking my career because these 5 are trying to make the team. And there's some hungry 5s on the other side
Right, exactly.
trying to make their team. And who are they coming after? They ain't coming after them. They're coming after me.
And what better way to make a point than to deck Vic in the back?
There you go. Blow Michael Vick up.
Right.
So I'm throwing that out there.
Hazards of the job.
But why should Michael Vick be? His hazard is based on your performance. We just talked about that.
Mm-hmm.
You're being evaluated as an offensive lineman, and the determination of whether you did good or not is my health.
Seems fair to me if I'm an offensive lineman.
Joe's dead. I'm cut. Better luck next time.
He sucks it.
Missed that block.
I want to get it. I never liked the left-handed.
But, such as it is, it happens.
Do you, as a football fan, do you get anything gauging your team? When you watch your team in preseason, do you extrapolate from their performance in the preseason? Oh, we're going to be good in the regular season?
No.
Yeah. You use big words for that.
Oh, I saw.
No.
No. He said no.
He's guessing. He's a 50% chance of being right.
He said, coin toss.
No.
Plot change. No. So you don't. So you take nothing from preseason performance as a fan for your team.
Well, like I said, you evaluate players, but as far as preseason, no. Until they tee it up for real, and the first team's out there for every team, no.
So
but you know what Adrian Peterson's going to give you.
Right? But he's not playing preseason.
Well, exactly the point.
Put your face right here, please, sir.
Bam.
I think that's to a lesser extent of what we're talking about. Is because Peterson's not going to play or Romo's not going to play.
But they only been doing this in the past few years here.
Oh, they've been doing that for a long time. I used to think back like when the Cowboys were in their heyday of winning. Emmett Smith and
Aikman played what, 2 downs?
Right, and walk off the field. And they over there got a T-shirt on,
Cowboy or baseball.
and he's talking to everybody, chaw just full of spitting on the sideline. The guys didn't play because they knew. You go back to your point about player evaluation, but it's really not even evaluating for a guy to get on the field. He may be a special teamer or, a backup or something like that.
Long snapper.
I never had a friend who was a long snapper.
I bet you did.
I just knew it was going to break
I
some
bet you did.
different direction,
All right. Locally, anything going on locally?
Couple things. Had a conversation with an individual about a past great. I know that sounds kind of crazy. Past great. Urbana High School. You're a Tiger, and when they did the
Sit back.
whack-a-mole. Whack-a-mole pops up. Say Urbana, and he jumps up out of his nap. Look at it, and they.
Wonder how many times we can get him to do that.
There you go. We do need to get a mallet for him.
Urbana.
As soon as they pop him right upside the head. But I got that great sports complex over there.
Mm-hmm.
And on the outside, they've got the Wall of Fame with all the athletes that have been put into the Hall of Fame over there. There's, to me, probably the greatest, or one of the greatest, that went over there. Now, I know he's super humble, so he probably wouldn't want.
Super humble.
But M.D. Pelmore, I was over there. His name's not on the. He's not in the Hall of Fame.
M.D. Pelmore.
M.D. Pelmore.
Patriarch.
Where all the Pelmores started.
I'm not in there either.
Well, you're not
okay.
the athlete that Mr. Pelmore was. That's one reason. And number two, when you set that fire in the girls' bathroom, I think that ended your chances. But seriously, I
Didn't
think
do it on
that
purpose.
the folks in Urbana should seriously do some research and do their due diligence in getting Mr. M.D. Pelmore into their Urbana High School Sports Hall of Fame over there.
And if they do that, they're going to have to drag him to the ceremony too.
Yeah, he probably won't. He'll go kicking and screaming.
And what did he play? The name doesn't sound
Well,
right.
he was a track athlete.
You remember
man.
any Pelmores from
Yeah.
Urbana High School?
Yeah.
He's the
But-
patriarch.
Especially them Pelmores.
Yeah, so
There's
just
a bunch of them.
just throwing that out there for public consumption, and
Martin Pelmore's in it. One of his boys, I believe.
so if folks are out there listening, like I said, with this being CU weekend, I think this is a golden opportunity for people to whether it be pick up the phone, send an email, contact the folks over there, contact Mr. Owens, who's the superintendent of schools over in Urbana, to let him know, or
Who's the AD over there?
athletic director. New guy just came in last year from Arkansas. Name slips my mind, but they need to get in contact with him. Just let them know, because sometimes some people are so good that we assume that they're in a Hall of Fame, and they're not. It's just like Sam. I know you have this problem all the time. When you're a good-looking man, everybody assumes you got dates, so the pretty girl doesn't ask you out, and you sit at home by yourself a lot
No,
because
she just shows up.
just shows up. Yeah,
That's
So I mean, it's the same thing.
that's how I roll.
You'll be getting more pictures from Norway or Sweden. Or
Oslo.
Oslo.
No, they just show up. You don't know how many I turned down tonight, Joe.
Are they breathing?
Of course they
You
are.
can actually touch them.
He goes through the morgue every
In
night.
the head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She still got a pulse.
She's good. Let me talk to her.
We're gonna pull a plug tomorrow. Let me hurry up.
Yeah,
yeah,
get
just-
back to MD Pelmore.
Yeah. So just wanted to put that out there. Folks get to work on that. Like I said, with this being CU weekend, I think it'd be a nice project for people who, number one, know Mr. Pelmore and the Pelmore family, and number two, you Urbana high school athletes and historians. Get that name on that wall of fame that you have over there. Well deserved.
How many years? I mean, you can be on that list forever, couldn't you?
Well, once your name's up, yeah.
Yeah.
It goes on a plaque and
Right.
it gets attached to
Well,
the
I'm
wall.
talking about the ballot. 'Cause, just like baseball, you have so many X amount of number of years, and after that, you're like,
If folks do their research
And I think
and look at what he did back in the early 60s, mid 60s, whatever it was, there won't be any question.
right. And I think that's the point, is that the individuals who were either students at that time, or if there are individuals who were administrators who are still available, still around, the folks who have the information, that's who we're talking to. Step up, share that information with the current administration, and I think it'll be a no-brainer. Once they know, as Mike said, once the research is done, that's how we do. We talk, you said local, obviously we talk CU weekend once again. We've given out all the information about where to go. Will Patterson tonight, 6 o'clock. Put your money where your mouth is. Tiger White and a group over there, 90s party and music and games.
at the
Bannock Civic Center.
What time did that start?
I think that starts, I want to say at 8. So it kind of overlaps with Will Patterson's thing. So you can leave Will's thing going over to the Civic Center. I think that goes like to 8 to 1, 8 to 2, something like that.
When you get the nappy.
You get the nap in after you get through the night, and then you wake up tomorrow, get out to the park, 11 to 8:30, all types of events going on, from softball to basketball to pro wrestling to little kids baseball in the morning. You're going to have your little superstars competition and different singing and music, and as we all know, and the vendors are out
Yeah, I
there.
can say, don't forget about the food vendors. Everybody's gonna be cooking their best barbecue. You gotta see who's got the best barbecue. So you gotta go taste everybody's.
Yeah.
Might get a Polish here and go
Fish
across
there,
go across the way and get some tips over here.
chicken,
So it's gonna be a good day.
baby back.
You said it starts at 8:30 in the morning?
No, 11.
11.
Oh, so they got plenty of time to watch us on UPTV.
There you go, from 7 to 9 tomorrow
So, yeah,
morning.
tune in, catch us first, and then
Now,
you go to the park.
one last thing I want to put out there, and I saw this morning. That's why, we watch Little League baseball. We talk a lot about we've had conversations about race and, the reduction of the African American baseball player. Well, today I saw something that I think pulls at everybody's strings and I don't care if you're black, white, male, female, tall, short, fat, skinny.
Good looking, like sorry.
Good, well, goes to say he's on the other side of the velvet rope. Young lady from Tawney, Pennsylvania, Monet Davis. It's a pitcher, basically an athlete for their little league team. Comes in the 6th inning to close out the game. She throws in excess of 70 miles an hour as a little league pitcher. A girl. Don't ever insult her and say something like, oh, he throws like a girl. No, because if he doesn't throw like Monet Davis, he doesn't throw like a girl.
So she doesn't start?
Well, she will start Sunday in the regional final. They brought her in to close the game out. They were up by 3. Now, dig this. Big kid from New York jacked one off her. 2-run shot dead center.
She drill him?
Oh, no. It was just the fact that she threw it so hard. When it hit his bat.
It couldn't help it.
Oh.
You knew it was going by team.
And it went, because the fence something against 2 1/4.
Yeah.
I think it went at least 275, 280. But what I loved, coach came out to the mound. He said, well, instead of winning by 3, we'll win by 1. Go get him. Goes back in the dugout. Next guy grounds out, game over. So if you get a chance this weekend, in between some of the festivities of CU Day, to watch some Little League Baseball, specifically look for this team. Well, there's 2 teams. There's another team from Chicago that's playing tomorrow for their regional final. It's out of the Jackie Robinson League on the west side, out of Harvey.
Mm-hmm.
They won last night in a 4-run, 10-run rule game, 13-2. So once again, when we had these conversations and we talked the negative in terms of, why aren't African American kids playing baseball or whatever? If you tune in, you'll get to see some kids who are playing and playing good baseball. But I'm telling you, the most impressive thing, and a lot of guys may hate on me on this, girl power was in play this morning on ESPN.
Well, 70 mile an hour would equate to like 110 in the major.
That's my point.
Yeah.
And before she got on the mound, what I loved is the announcer said she's got perfect form. And when she got on the mound, she kind of pitches from the stretch, but she doesn't come to a complete stop. Her motion is from the stretch. She's got the ball high. She brings it down almost to her chest. And just when she gets there, she winds up and she brings it.
I like to see that. You don't see too many girls on the mound.
That's my point. But to see a girl throw it, as Mike says, in excess of 100, because the distance is only 45 feet.
Yeah.
So you imagine you're a little
Boom,
12-year-old kid. You're 5'2", 95 pounds, soaking wet.
And you're already scared to death.
And it's a girl.
And you don't even see it. You just hear it.
All you hear is.
You see Andrew McCutcheon get plucked the other day?
Yeah, that was not cool.
That pissed him off.
Not cool. Did you see the guy from was it Toronto who got the pitcher who got the comeback right up and hit him in the head?
Yeah.
Oh.
Baseball.
But don't want to end on a negative note.
No.
Girls and 100+ mile an hour pitches.
There you go.
McCutcheon wanted to rub it, but he didn't.
It takes a lot to get him upset too.
He got it rubbed later.
I bet he did.
Probably from Oslo.
Oh, I mean that was a payback pitch from the night before when one of the other team's player had his wrist broke, something like that.
Yeah, Paul Goldsmith, the all-star first baseman of the Arizona
Diamondback. Yeah.
Accidentally hit.
Yeah, but this dude, he was a reliever. He knew what his job was. He come right in there and throw right at him, plunked him, got throughout the game.
That's all right. September's coming when it'll matter.
Yeah.
Right.
But percussion supposedly has a broken rib, something like that. So he'll be out for a few weeks. Well, that's gonna do it for this edition of Talking Sports. We do this each and every Friday from 2 to 4. You tune in next week. We'll lace them up and do it again.